You save it as your last resort super card. It's when all your teammates are dead. And there will be time, it's going to be one of those classes where people are going to troll the crap out of your friends, but that's okay, because this is Unforgotten Quest, and I'm okay with a bit of comedy and groups not being completely friendly. Because just don't play with the guy if he's an asshole. Just be like, Roman, just go away. I don't want to play with you. You're always savage killing me. There'll be people who like, I know what's gonna happen. They'll be like, oh, the boss at 3%. I don't care. I'm going to raid. It'll be really frustrating if you play another melee class with a friend who's a savage. But that's okay because it'll be funny amongst you guys. That's it. It'll be funny amongst you. That guy will laugh, and you'll be like, God damn it, Trevor! Why do you always have to kill me when the boss is about to be dead? Because it's funny. But the actual logistics of it is it's the last resort super enrage. And how the class actually works is a waving dance of you want to do all these skills, but you got to make sure you keep down your enrage because it's like a negative. That's what it is. It's the coolest negative you could have. It's kind of like if the bar fills up, you die. That's what it is. If the bar fills up, you die. I might even make it so when you come into your rage form, you just die. I don't even give you a weakened state. You just used up all your... You went full Super Saiyan 3, and I can only hold this transformation for 13 seconds, and then you just die. Just say that's a playtest thing to see how we can make it really work and be fun. No, it's the transformation, as cool as it sounds, and as much as you would want to do it, you never want to do it. It's like the penalty. So it's like a bar of, oh no, too much rage. So take it to, I gotta get out of this fire. Spamming this attack while I get out of the fire, cause I'm taking too much rage. You gotta stay sassy as a savage, so you don't go savage. Okay, next class. Okay, this is just like Bard. She's easy to talk about. Oh, the pirate. You can be a boy pirate. I just like the girl pirate, so I used her for my screenshot. So the pirate, if you remember the pirate, if you remember the Bard, their whole gimmick was they just had more loot, and so they were completely like loot-based class. Remember how in like some games you'd be like, that class is completely based on their weapon. That's what the Bard is. There's like a lot of their damage just comes to the fact that they can equip more stuff. The pirate has very customizable weapons, and so what that means is you basically take a weapon and you make it your pet, and and the Bard has this little gimmick where you can basically break down weapons into different upgrades for them. So you'll have this entire little interface where it's kind of like you change different parts of your weapon. And it's not, I'm going to put 30% damage, because the biggest thing with the Bard is you have to reload. Whether you're using a quiver or you're using guns, unless you use swords, those don't need to reload. But I don't think can I customize? I don't think maybe you can. I guess the whole class customizes. But anyway, you have to reload. And so you'll base a lot of stuff based on how many bullets your gun takes. And so all the different types of guns and bows and quivers and stuff, you're going to base around, well, I have this this is the rotation class. Now, I'm not a fan of rotations, but considering that World of Warcraft is such a popular game and every single class is rotation based, I was like, I think I should do a class that's really based around rotations, but if I do that, I want to make it so you can always feel like you can customize it. So you have all these abilities and they cost ammo, right? But when you run out, there's always reload. And so when you reload, you're always going to want to either switch to another weapon or have some sort of ability to use in between reloading. And there will be different types of like attachments. This attachment allows you to shoot 2 bullets with the such and such skill. So it's kind of like this class where every time you get a weapon, you don't have to necessarily relearn your class because you might just slap the different attachments, the same attachments that kind of balance it out. But you're always able to kind of like fine tune how you want to play it. The biggest thing, I did it in my video, I always with this class, like the biggest like gameplay thing I always wanted to do was scoot and shoot, like stutter step. Like I wanted to make sure that's a big thing. So like a lot of the gun attachments just control sometimes your attack speed animation, but how it works. So your animation is quick, but you can't fire for a couple seconds, so you always have time to move, shoot, move, shoot, move, shoot. Because it's just, I guess it's just kind of fun. I don't know how to like describe it any more than that. But yeah, it's pretty straightforward. It's just I don't have like, this is the class that I've planned out the least, because it was the sixth class I decided on when I was thinking about them, or when I was picking my classes. I used to have Paladin, but I scrapped the Paladin completely because I was just like, this gameplay mechanic. It's the same with the Bard, and then I just had this. I have this general loose idea of what I want to do with the class. I didn't want to do anything like a Ranger or necessarily a bow type class. If you wanted to play a bow type class, obviously Pirate's going to be good, but it's still going to be like really gun based. The Bard is going to be like able to use bows a lot, and the reason why I didn't want to do any bow based class, this was another like really requested class, was all the classes that I would like, the stereotypical this is this class. I always feel like if you're a ranger or any type of hunter, you need that pet bear or the pet wolf or whatever, and I did not want to do pets for release. Because the thing is with pets in video games is if the pet AI is stupid, the class is garbage. And what a lot of classes do to circumvent this is either make your pet worthless so you don't care about it, in which case why would I make a class about a pet where your pet's a mechanic if it's stupid, or the pet's just a cheater and he I teleported the mob and I start attacking it, and then it's just like, well, this is also uninteresting. And so I made sure I didn't want to do any sort of pets for any of my 6 release classes, because until I can properly build levels, the game, classes, then I would want to really see what I could do with AI to really make it fun to do a pet class. Plus, if I was going to do a pet class, it'd be a goddamn necromancer, let's be honest. Okay, how have I not talked about this? Didn't I say I was going to start with this one? Okay, wizard. Alright, it doesn't have a monocle. You don't need to tell me. It's because the monocle just didn't look good in the preview video. Tell you right now, I'll make it so monocles are used. It's just like wizards always want to wear monocles. They're always getting them. What's this red thing? Is that just this level? So wizard. So, how does a wizard work? Like I said, I've had this idea in my head forever. And the wizard has a temperature gauge. And it starts at 0, and it can go to 100 hot, and it can go to 100 cold. The more you go up in hot, the more your spells deal in damage, and the more that increases the chance to critical hit, and the more they start to do damage to yourself. At 100, whatever damage you deal, you also take. So it's a class where you can kill yourself. If you're at 100 heat, you can kill yourself. You're shooting spells, you died. And as you get cold, you start to get an absorption shield. And the absorption shield absorbs, it increases your defense by maybe 10, so it absorbs like 10% of all damage. It's kind of just a nice little mitigator as part of the class, but it also absorbs the damage you would deal from your heat. And so how the class works is when you cast fire spells, you get hotter, and when you cast cold spells, you get colder. The deeper you go in the cold, the quicker the shield gets, and you'll have like a little indicator above that shows your heat, but it also shows how much life you have, because the shield can only be equal to about how much health you have, or give or take. And it's one of these classes where you go really cold to get a big shield, and then you go really hot to do tons of damage, which makes it makes those damage resource dump spells even more fun, because I might give you a damage dump resource spell that is just a buff, and it's just heat spells no longer do damage to you for 12 seconds, and you're just like, oh, I can just kill myself without killing myself. and that's wizard. And so wizards, all of their spells are based off 3 damage types: fire, ice, and arcane. And arcane always brings you back down to 0. So there's going to be some cool builds where you do arcane stuff that's always around 0. And every weapon the wizard has can be modified to do either heat, cold, or arcane damage. And so if you remember how I talked about auto attacks, you might have wands and staffs that shoot like little tiny projectiles like pew, or their melee stuff, but they'll be like, it's a flame slash sword. You'll use, those are ways to build up heat or cold, and so you'll create these builds, I guess you do, based on what you want to use to build heat and do damage, and what you want to use to build cold. So it might even affect when you pick choices like healing. You might be like, well, I just really like this one heat spell that it lets me heal instantly, but it's fire, and I think I would rather have the cold spell because I don't really have a lot of ways to build that shield up. So there'll be tons of like, you'll be like, I really want to use fireball, but I want to use all the other fire spells. I guess I won't use fireball in this one scenario because I need something to build. I'm going to use the ice bolt spell where it's like ice lance. Just throw. I can move while I'm building up my shield, and then I can stand still doing my fire strike flamorama spell. That's the wizard class. The wizard class as a whole is the class where I was just like, this is an archetype that whenever I play a video game, and I've said this before, I want to stand still and cast spells. Even though this game has tons of movement, and you'll be able to build the wizard to do lots of movement-based things. It's the one class where I wanted to make it so you can stand still and cast really long spells to shoot at enemies. And kill yourself while doing it. As a wizard. Okay, we're going to talk... Okay, I'm not going to talk about this class, because for most of this stuff, I have tons of stuff written down. I completely really scrapped this idea, so I'm just not going to talk about it. I'm still keeping her in, but I'm not going to really talk about the Valkyrie. The Valkyrie had this music system, and what it was it's the same reason I ditched the Bard's mechanic with cards. It had this idea where you could have... to all your abilities, you could attach notes, and you would play songs, and then whenever you completed a song, you were able to do an ability. And so what you did is you would attach multiple skills, the same skill, to different songs. It's just dumb. And this problem is you're just staring at a UI, kind of hitting skills. And so I had this idea where it was just like, you play songs as you do. It was just fucking dumb. And so, whoa, I'm hitting the wrong button. And so I just scrapped it. And I have a bunch of ideas what I want to do with it, but I don't have anything final. So, like right now, we won't get into it. We'll talk about the last class because he's the most exciting. Like I had one idea for the Valkyrie where I was just like, the mechanic for Valkyrie is it doesn't have a mechanic. That way, it's just an easy class to learn. You just have skills. I might even go with something like that but then kind of the Bard's like that, right? I don't know. Well, it'll be something where you'll see me talking about it over the next couple months as I actually get some time to think about this stuff and see what I want to do. There might even be the ability where I just scrap it and we end up with Paladin, because that's what people really want. But we'll see. I like Valkyrie. Get out of here. We're gonna talk about the Sorcerer. Okay. Sorcerer time. So, it's kind of funny to have a wizard and sorcerer as two of the release classes, but that's because sorcerer is nothing like a sorcerer in any other game. The sorcerer is like Sir Schmoopy sorcerer. And what I mean by this is, my goal with this class is to create a class in which you get to play Sir Schmoopy from Unforgotten Realms. And so, okay. That's good. So when I first did this, I had like all these abilities, and it was like, here's your flare ability. This ability brings down a keg, and you get drunk. And it was like cool. And I had some mechanics about rolling dice. Every time you do an ability, you roll a d20. And there was some cool ideas, but I didn't like them. And so when I knew I wanted to do the level editor, when I started doing production on it, and I knew I was going to have a class builder, I knew I was going to need a huge pool of abilities to draw from. And so that got me thinking of, what if I had a class that did all of the abilities I'm going to make in this pool? Because if I'm going to make, 50, 60, 70 spells, what if I have a class that has all of them? And so I made it. Because in Unforgotten Realms, what Sir Shmoopy is known for is doing stuff you're not normally supposed to do. And so here is how the class works. Sorcerers have... Let me get this right, because I never remember how this works. That was not... No, I did not want to do that. File that under... Didn't want to do that, Rob. Sorcerers have a bunch of elements, okay? And you can take any two elements, if I could pull this up, and create a spell. But you can't do the same element. So elements are, I think currently, I might rename some of them and stuff, is fire, water, wind, earth. Is heart one? How is heart not one? I'm an idiot. Heart, that's getting put in there. Arcane, light, ice, steel, heart. Oh, there's heart. Okay. I was about to say, how did I miss that fucking joke? Spirit, combustion, that's a dumb one. Darkness, and poison. You have all these different elements, okay? And so instead of, while the other classes, when they level up, they pick between 3 different skills. So you pick, when you're a wizard, you pick between the fire spell, the ice spell. It's like, this is the time where wizards select a damage spell. And you can change them any time. You just can only have one on your bar at any one time. You can't drag Fireball and Frostbolt. You kind of have to pick one. So if you're like, I'm going to put Fireball on my spell, or I'm going to take the Fireball spell and put in my bar, then the Frostbolt spell that's in the same category of 3 goes off. So you can change them as long as you're out of combat to kind of mess around on the fly. That's kind of based off Diablo 3. Diablo 3 was really awesome because every time you got a skill, you'd mess around. I loved that in leveling up in Diablo 3. Even though in the end you only use maybe 6 skills and the end game was kind of wonky, leveling up in Diablo 3 was fucking great. Because it was just every time you got something new, you're like, I'm going to try this. Oh, this is awesome. Woo! Woo! I would spin, but there's a cord in my headset. I'm going to do it anyway. Woo! I'm going to break something. I'm not going to do it. I'm wimping out. No, but in Diablo, you would change your skills, and I was like, that's a great system. I'm going to do that. And I also, even though people hate it, not general, but a lot of people hate it, I did like the idea Warcraft, or World of Warcraft did with when you level up, you pick 3 skills. I just didn't like it in replacing the talent tree, because I still like putting points and stuff. Because sometimes when it's either cookie-cutter builds, whatever. I think I can make things that are not cookie-cutter builds, but regardless, sometimes it's just fun to level up and you get a point and you put it in and you're like, yeah, I put a point in thing. Well, games used to always have you just put attributes in. And even though they were kind of dumb, they still always felt like, yeah, I'm putting a point in. So, I don't know. Pushing buttons is fun. But so the sorcerer, this guy, he's got 13 attributes. Was that right? Did we confirm that? Is that the number I said? Because I'm about to say the other number. I don't know, it's 13. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. He's got 13, and you can't merge 2. So instead of picking abilities when you level up, you pick an attribute to merge into the spells. And eventually, there's only so many, so eventually you just get all the attributes, but you can pick them in different orders as you're leveling up to try stuff. And so you take 2 attributes, so you take fire and you take water, and you put them together and you get a spell. And so with 13 attributes, when you can't do duplicates, there's 156 combinations. That's a lot of spells. Some of them are simple carbon copies of each other, right? This is the fire one, this is the ice one. But then there's going to be a whole slew of abilities that have no real purpose. They're just abilities you can use to exploit the game. And I know it sounds dumb to design abilities to exploit the game, but that's the idea of the class in some ways. So what I mean, an example I use for this is I'm going to have a grease spell, and that greases the ground. And so there'll be a couple things you can do with it. There'll be some combinations, a fire spell's used on it. Ooh, it makes it so it does X amount of damage when it's like a firewall. Or monster, you can knock the monster down, and he slides on the grease, and he falls into a pit. And so it's going to, whatever, while I'm not using a ton of physics in my game, I mean, there's some, I'm not going crazy overboard though. Um, the sorcerer class has all of those abilities. Pretty much, if there's all the abilities in the game from other classes, for the most part, have that type of spell in somewhere in the sorcerer class through a combination, and then he has all the other dumb spells that don't really have a purpose. But I give them to you, and you're like, why would I ever use a spell? Because there will be a reason, or some of them I'll like perfectly craft to use them, but some of them will just be like, I don't know why I would use the spell, but I'm going to try and grease the floor and make monsters slip on it. I don't think it's viable, but I want to give players that experience with the sorcerer class. I want to give them that exploration feel too. Because, you know, when you have 4 elements, you have, oh my god, I'm doing math. What is that, like 12? 4 times 3. Yeah, 12. You have 12 different combinations. So really early in the game, you got 12 elements. You're already exploring, or four elements. You're exploring. You're like, what does this spell do? What does this spell do? What does this spell? What does this spell do? What's this spell do? What does this spell do? Because that's a lot of fun. That just the like for people like Munchkins, who love to like squeeze every ounce of DPS or efficiency out of characters. I wanted to make a class of like personal exploration that is tons of fun, and that's what I wanted to do with Sorcerer, because that's what Sorcerer is in Unforgotten Realms. But it's not just 2 spells. You can take the 2 elements. You take the 2 elements, and you can also attach 3 elements to them. And that's because the Sorcerer doesn't have any passive abilities. Like all the other classes, you pick spells at certain levels, and then in like the levels where you don't get spells, you pick passives through a talent tree system. The Sorcerer instead can attach the elements to the spells to also change them. And that would be how their passives go. So not only do you have this game where you're constantly messing around with spells, you also then, every spell now has 11 different passives that you can attach to it, and there's 3 different, and you can only have 3. That's a lot. Now, these are just passives, right? So it's going to be like, some of them are straight damage buffs. Some of them will be really cool, right? Some of them will be like, you know, they completely change a spell. But a lot of them will just be like what you would think happens. It just modify, reduce cast time, increase damage, increase range, increase duration, all that type of thing, because that's what you would get from passives of other classes. But it makes it so you have all these things to toy around with and play with. And on top of that, you only have a certain amount of every element. So like I said, these elements replace passives. So I don't know. I have to go look at the final number. All the classes get like 11 active abilities, and they also get like, I think it's 31 passives. So the Sorcerer gets that many elements, and that allows you to create 8 spells that all have 3 elements plus a couple extras. And then that makes it so they basically, if you built spells with 3 elements, it would give you the same amount of spells as other classes. Now, technically, you could have spells. You could just have like, oh, I got 30 spells, and they don't have a lot of passives attached to them. Like if you really wanted to, and there will be scenarios in which you do that. But for the most part, it's you're going to make a handful of spells, and those are the spells you use. And so there's just a ton of flexibility for the Sorcerer. But then you also have the whole, you only have a certain amount of elements. So you'd be like, I only have 5 heart elements, and I've used them all, but I really need a heart element for this spell. Oh, where am I going to get this heart element? So then you have this giant balancing act, which, again, adds to that Munchkin behavior that Sir Schmoopy in the Sorcerer class is kind of based around. So that's pretty cool. I talked about classes. I think I've talked about a lot of stuff. I'm going to take a quick 2-minute break to get another drink of water, because I should just bring like 6 cups back next time. And then we're going to talk about some other stuff. And I'll figure out what have I not talked? Oh, loot! Oh my goodness, we need to talk about loot. Oh, one of my mods will post a link to the Kickstarter. If you're listening to me and you're like, oh, this sounds so cool. you please support me, because I honestly I would love to do this for a living for you guys. I would come back. I would love to just make these games. Oh, I'd love it. Oh, it'd be so great. Oh, listen to this excellent song called "Choir of the Epic Realms" while I go get a drink of water. Oh my goodness. I totally messed something up on my Kickstarter. For whatever reason, that diamond bundle tier is limited at 5 of 5. I have no idea why that was like that. It was supposed to be 25. I don't even think I can change that. Shoot. Because 5 doesn't even make any sense. That was silly of me. Let's see if they let me change that. Because 5 of 5, I could have done like a lot more if it was, oh yeah, I can't change that. Well, I screwed myself. Oh wait, oh I can. Wait, I don't understand. There we go. Sorry about that, guys. I don't know why it was set to 5 of 5 for that $500 tier. Man, you guys are awesome. What are we at? 13,000 so far? That's fan. You guys are great. That's because I wanted to make sure that we had a really good start. 'Cause sometimes you have these Kickstarters and they just don't get any pledges at release, and it's kind of off-putting for people who are in to like check out the project and they're just like, I don't want to be the person to put money in. So you guys are awesome for getting this off to a really nice start. I don't know why that 500 tier was limited though. So if you were like, oh my god, I missed the 500 tier, well, I didn't. I didn't mean limited at 5. Because that's not how I was planning to get to 100 grand with that limited at 5. Okay. What are we talking about? Loot? Is that what we're talking about now? I lied. I love this song. Okay. So we're going to talk about loot. I love loot. It's awesome. Let me open up that little Photoshop thing we had going over here. Let's get you all zoomed in, guys, so we can talk about this better. Put something on the screen. Okay,